So, answering another question that has been asked a million times in the comments when it comes to how to best sort of configure your Quest 2 or your G2 when it comes to the render resolution in the Oculus software and in Steam versus the in-game settings. I've had quite a few requests saying, Karl, can you do a video specifically about such and such a game, or about such and such a sim? Can you tell me what best settings to use for Dirt Rally, best settings to use in ACC and in iRacing and always that and other. And the problem is we've all got very different PC specifications, so I can't give like a blanket set of settings. I can't say, like I can with wheel setups, for example. If I've got a G920 or a Thrustmaster TX or TSPC or Fnatic CSL, I can give settings for those on a per game basis that I think are good, because I've got exactly the same as what you'll have. But when it comes to PC specs, you could have different CPU, different graphics card, different RAM, different motherboard, different storage options. The list goes on. So I can't say, load up your game, set these settings to this. But what I can say, especially when it comes to the question of should I try and aim for a higher render resolution, so in the Oculus software, should you try and push it up more towards 1.7 if you can, and if you're talking Steam VR because you've got a G2, should you try and run at 100% render resolution if you can, and run lower in-game settings. So we're talking when you go into the game itself and you go into the graphics options and you might have low, medium, high and ultra. People are asking me, should I run higher render resolution and then run a medium or a low in-game? Or should I run a lower render resolution and then go in the game and run on high or ultra? What's going to give me the best experience, Karl? So this, again, I can't give you a black and white answer, but I'll give you my thoughts and my experience and my opinions. Now, for me, I will always try and prioritize sharpness of the image, so resolution. If we think about the old days, or not even the old days, if you've got a mid-range graphics card, for example, maybe something that was only £100, maybe a 1050 Ti, something like that, but you've got a 4K monitor, right? Your 1050 Ti is not going to run any of your games on higher ultra settings at 4K, is it? It's just not capable of doing it. So you have two choices. You can run the game at a lower resolution, maybe you drop back to 1080p and you keep the game on high, or maybe you even drop back to 720p and you keep the in-game graphics on ultra. So you've got nicer textures, nicer shadows, nicer reflections, nicer lighting. The whole image generally will look way better. What you'll find is when you go from like ultra down to low in any game, it goes from looking really well presented, lots of visual fidelity, down to a very bland image. A bit like going from a colour TV to a black and white TV. It's almost that level of contrast, going from ultra to low. So it's a big difference. And, would you rather drop all that gloss and keep the resolution at 4K, but have a very bland but sharp image? Or would you rather drop the resolution down where you can start to see a little bit of blockiness, but you've got all your visual fidelity on and everything looks as good as it can? And if we're talking about flat screen monitors, if you step a little bit further away so you can't see the blockiness, the image actually looks quite good. It's only when you sit a little closer you can see it's a little blurry and you can start to see the pixels because it's being rendered low. Well, the same thing happens with our VR headsets. The difference is they're strapped to your face, and if you run at too lower render resolution, you really see a blurry, blocky almost image, and it's very, very noticeable. But again, it's going to be down to you. Would you rather it be a bit blurry, not very sharp, and potentially you can see the rendered pixels? You'll never see the actual pixels on these new higher resolution headsets because they're so small, or you wouldn't see them easily anyway. Yeah, would you rather see the rendered pixels but have all the shadows and lighting and effects on and the whole experience be a bit nicer? Or do you want it super crisp and sharp so that every detail, every bit of text is perfectly crisp, running as close to native resolution as you can, but you've got all your gloss turned off? You know, the shadows, the lighting, the reflections, they're all, you know, dialed right back, and everything looks a bit bland. And this is why I can't give you a yes or no answer, or I do this, everyone, this is the best, because there is no the best. It's gonna have to be down to you about what you prefer. And for me, I find a happy medium. I lower the render resolution enough so that I can run my games on high. So I suppose, okay, yeah, so this really is my advice. Set the in-game settings to high. The one below maximum, whether it's low, medium, high, ultra, whether it's low, medium, high, maximum, whether it's low, medium, high, run one below whatever the absolute highest setting is. And then go into either Steam VR, if it's a G2 we're talking about here, or go into the Oculus software if we're talking about a Quest 2, and adjust the render resolution down until you can hold a solid 80 or 90 hertz, depending what you're running in your Quest. G2 obviously is 90 hertz. For me, that gives me the best balance, because I can't stand dialing back all the gloss so the image looks really bland, and like I say, almost like going from a colour TV to a black and white TV. You've lost everything, and it's just awful. I'd rather have most of that on and have to drop my resolution a little bit. But again, this is down to your PC specs. 3800X, RTX 2080. So reasonable spec. It's probably mid-range by today's standards with all the new cards out. So I can run, like, to give you an example, if I'm on high in, say, Half-Life Alyx, in the Oculus software, I'll be on render resolution 1.3. And that for me is still sharper than my CV1 or what my Rift S was. And on high settings, it still looks really good. You know, I could drop back to low settings in game and put that render resolution up to 1.7, perhaps, I haven't actually tried. And it would look even sharper, but it would all look really bland. So that's really the best I can do to answer this question, because loads of you ask me all the time, Karl, can you do a specific video? Show me how to do this. What's the best way to do this? And the best way to do that for this game and for this game. And hopefully you can see now there isn't the best way to do it. There's just what I think is the best or what you think is the best, depending on whether you prioritize sharpness or visual fidelity and gloss. It's entirely up to you. If you're not sure how things like rendering resolution works, I have got videos on that. I've got one. I'm not sure if it will be out before this video. I'll make sure it's out before this video's out. Otherwise, it might be confusing. So yeah, my last VR video will probably have been Oculus render slider versus Steam VR render slider, to explain how they work together, because that can get confusing. Another question that you all keep asking me. So that will be out, and so you should now know how to adjust those accordingly and how they work with one another. But yes, hopefully that's been helpful. Again, by all means, questions in the comments are brilliant, because it tells me what you want to know. And if I can help you, then I will. So, ask away, anything you like, guys. But yeah, as always, thank you very much for watching, and take it easy.